Hello, nerds! Thank you for joining me here on Nerd News Clips. This is the second channel. This is the place for all of the short-form content as well as the individual sections and just generally speaking smaller things. If you are into the longer form content, youtube.com/generallynerdy is the place to go see that. With that out of the way, let's get into this. So that brings us into the rumor mill. Rumor mill is actually fairly healthy for this episode, so has me a little bit more excited going towards the end of the year. So first up, we have some news sources around rumors that we have previously talked about. The first news source has to do with Black Panther video game. In the gaming section, we talked about EA Motive, and they're doing the new Iron Man game. This is official, and if you remember, we were talking in that section about how EA Motive is excited going forward with their new contract with Disney Marvel to make more games for them. So that has led the rumor mill to say, well, then that Black Panther game that we talked about previously is going to be developed by none other than EA Motive. Well, this is rumor based on rumor because the Black Panther game is still technically a rumor. So we can only go up to 50%, but it stands to reason that they would potentially be the ones tasked with doing this, though if that's the case, then that's not going to happen theoretically for a number of years, potentially 2 to 3 years at the earliest, because they already are working on Iron Man while they finish up Dead Space. So they've got a lot on their plate. So I don't think we're at the situation where they would be making such an announcement, nor would they be announcing a game 5 years down the road on purpose. Because it's happened before that games that were announced, a decade ahead of time, but that's because development is a bitch. So it just doesn't make sense that they would purposefully announce something that is that far out. So I'm going to drop this one down below our 50% likelihood and say this is right about 40% the EA Motive is going to be working on the rumored Black Panther video game. Our next news source on old rumor has to do with the Hulk. We've talked a number of rumors about the Hulk, and this one kind of brings 2 or 3 of them together. So the rumor goes on to say that World War Hulk, the movie that is rumored to be happening, is going to feature many different colored Hulks, one of which is going to debut in the Captain America 4 New World Order movie. So those are our 2 primary new bits to this rumor, is that World War Hulk is going to have multiple Hulks, and one of those multiple Hulks is going to premiere in the Captain America movie. So World War Hulk is not 100% officially going to be happening because, rights are weird with the Hulk IP as far as like Universal gets involved in there. And I think they might have reverted at this point, though I could be wrong. I could be misremembering that. So I might be going on about nothing. But assuming that's the case, we do know at the very least that World War Hulk has not been announced, which means we can only go up to 50% on any of this. So I think that's where we're going to go, though, because that makes sense. World War Hulk implies that there's going to be a large scale something because world is in the title. So yes, and they're very likely not going to be going with much, if anything, from the comic book version of that story by the same name. They're going to do their own thing, much like they did with the Infinity Gauntlet. So yeah, I would say that 50% likely, because that's as high as we can go, that we're going to have multiple Hulks in this movie that may or may not actually be happening. And then going on to say that one of those Hulks is coming from Captain America seems a little bit of a stretch. Yeah, I think we're going about 30% on that one. I don't know, just seems like there's a lot of straws on that end and we can't really grasp them all. So that's what we have for new sources. Let's move on to new rumors. We have Miss Marvel Season 2 being greenlit is our first rumor to attack. I would be very surprised if this did not get greenlit for a number of reasons. Not because it did the best as far as ratings go, but it definitely checked a lot of boxes as far as the social issues that Disney is trying to make you aware of these days. Yeah, I fully believe that this is a thing. We're going to say 80% likely that Ms. Marvel is getting a season 2, and it has already been greenlit. Sure, that stands to reason. Next, we're talking about Doctor Doom. And the rumor around Doctor Doom is that Ryan Gosling has been cast to play Doctor Doom. Victor Von Doom is going to be one of the prettiest men in the world. How does that work? Yeah, I think this is fun to consider. I don't think this one really holds a lot of water, just because Gosling has a number of other projects on his plate. He's a fairly busy man, and also I really don't think we will ever see Gosling in the MCU. That's just, though, to kind of counter my own thought, I never thought we'd see Christian Bale in the MCU either. I thought as close as he would get to that was DC, and now he's in Marvel, so who knows. But I don't know, something about the nature of Ryan Gosling's acting choices and movie choices to be in does not strike me as a man who's really chomping at the bit to be in the MCU. So I don't know, I feel like Ryan Gosling, Doctor Doom doesn't work on a lot of levels and puts us at about 30% likely that we will be seeing such a thing. Next, let's talk about Captain America 4. We have 3 different rumors to tackle here for Captain America New World Order. First up, Tim Blake Nelson is said to be reprising his role as the leader. This is not rumor, this is news. We already know this is happening. He was the leader in the Ed Norton Hulk. He is going to be coming back. The rumored part of that is that he will be the leader again. That's pretty freaking likely. We're looking about 99% likely that he will be the leader again. The big rumor here, though, is that he is going to be the primary antagonist for Captain America 4. I don't know. This one seems like, I don't know, possibilities are really endless. This comes from a really solid source, so that automatically bumps it up 10%. We're looking at about 60% likelihood just based off of that information alone. And I think that's as much as we can go on, is the solidness of the source, because I don't know, there's not a lot about this that screams accurate to me aside from who's reporting it. So let's move to our next one to do with Captain America, and that is Carl Lumbly is going to be returning as Isaha Bradley, the Patriot, who was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. He was the older gentleman who was the other captain. He was the black cap back when he was younger, and now he's wheelchair bound, if I remember correctly. But also the guy who was the new Falcon, also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is going to be returning for this movie as well. Both of these very much stand to reason. The Patriot one comes back to me from a number of sources. So yeah, I'm going to say probably about 85% likely on both of these rumors. Technically, they're the same rumor, but both of the elements of this rumor, pretty freaking likely. Because that just kind of goes with the storytelling, the way that the MCU has been built, right? Especially now that we're working with series and movies, it just stands to reason that we're going to see elements from the series reoccur in the movies, right? So, and then our third rumor dealing with Cap 4 is that we're going to see more than just the one. Remember, we talking about that Hulk rumor a moment ago. We're going to see more than just the one Hulk in Cap 4. Again, this seems, I don't know why this would need to happen. Will we see Bruce Banner Hulk in Cap 4? Very probable. Again, connective tissue, series into movies, all that jazz. Yeah, I would not be surprised to see Bruce Banner Hulk, but that's not what the rumor says. The rumor says we're going to be seeing other Hulks, plural, in this movie. I just don't see that as a very strong possibility. So we're going to say right about, again, 40% likely. I know the other one was 30, but yeah, moving on. And then we're moving into Shang Chi. Shang-Chi sequel is looking at a 2025 release date. That's the first part of the rumor. The second part of the rumor is that Destin Daniel Cretten, I got his name backwards, is going to be directing it, which is significant because we already know that Destin Daniel Cretten is going to be directing the Avengers Kang Dynasty movie. And so if Shang Chi 2 and Avengers Kang Dynasty are going to both be coming out in 2025, then that means he's going to effectively be filming at least large chunks of both movies at the same time, which leads us to the third part of this rumor, and that is that these two movies are going to be very closely related. All right, so let's break that down. Shang-Chi 2 happening, sure. 2025 sounds reasonable. 80% likely that those two things are happening. Destin Daniel Cretten directing. Yeah, he directed the last one. Why wouldn't they bring him back to do this one? They did the same thing with Ryan Coogler for Black Panther. Sure. Moving along to the next piece being that he is also going to be directing Kang Dynasty, that is also going to be coming out in 2025. That's where this starts to break down a little bit. It seems that there is a fair amount of connective tissue there so that we can jump to that conclusion, but it is still jumping to a conclusion. So I feel like this one is a little less likely. We're going to say about 60% that they're both going to be coming out the same year. So that's where we lie with that. Let's move on. Next, we're talking about the MCU as a whole. There is a new report that says that the cosmic weapons, those being specifically Shang-Chi's rings and Kamala Khan's bangles, and potentially even the Black Knight's, Dane Whitman's Ebony Blade, those are going to be the key in the conclusion of the multiverse saga. Seems like there has not been a lot of weight put on them in the storytelling elements of the MCU up until this point, at least not in the same way that we got the Infinity Stones in the Infinity Saga. So, being as that is the parallel that the rumor is trying to make, that these are going to be just as important as the Infinity Stones in the Infinity Saga, seems like that doesn't necessarily match up, because we've only heard about Shang-Chi's rings in the Shang-Chi movie. We've only heard about Miss Marvel's bangle in the Miss Marvel series. We would be hearing about these things in other movies and series and such if they were that important like they were in the Infinity Saga. So, I don't know, this doesn't seem super reasonable. Again, comes from a pretty great source, so I'm not going to go super low on this. I'm going to say about 50% chance that it could go either way. It's a 50-50. Let's move on. Our next one has to do with Secret Wars directly. This one is kind of two rumors as well. First one being that the story of Secret Wars, the movie, is going to be taking place on Battleworld from the comic books, which means it's not going to be as pivotal to the entire rest of the MCU as people are wanting to think. And then the second part of this rumor is that Ryan Coogler is going to be directing the Secret Wars movie. I don't know. I feel like Secret Wars, if you have a series that is going to it's going to culminate into a movie, it would be a little more a little more pivotal for the rest of the MCU, because you're going to spend a season of content building into a potentially 3-hour-long movie, only to have it be relatively inconsequential. It just doesn't add up there. So I'm going to say about 40% likely there. As far as Coogler directing this, I don't see why not. I'm sure he signed something like a 5 or 7 movie deal with Marvel Disney. And so, sure, no reason to not believe this. Let's say 75% likely Coogler will be directing the Secret Wars movie. Once again, this has been just a brief segment from the larger episode that has been posted over on the main channel, youtube.com/generallynerdy. Go over there for the long form content, or just subscribe here if you want it in bite-sized chunks. Thank you very much for joining me, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, though, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.